Hey, it's me, Vicki Marie, with my coffee this morning. And it's got my coffee cup has got a dog on it, Wagmore Barkless. And I am accompanied by my little dog, Rocky. You can just see the top of his ears in the chair next to me. Okay, so thank you for being here. If you're a subscriber, special thanks. If you're not a subscriber yet, please think about subscribing. It's completely free. Oh, Rocky's not enjoying the video already. He's gone. So I'm just going to light the candle. So still no news about Samantha Murphy, but we light the candle anyway. Every time I start a video, I'm going to light a candle for all the missing people. And not only people that are lost in the sense that they can't be found, but lost, maybe you're lost. You know, we all feel lost sometimes, don't we? So the candle is for you as well. It's for all of us. So, yeah, if you're not already subscribed, please think about subscribing. It's completely free. Don't forget to leave your DNA or your fingerprint on the like button, because that really helps me out as well and is also free. And I want to say special thanks to those of you out there who've made a special effort to support my channel, become a member. And becoming a member of Vicki Marie Chats is $1.99 a month. And it's cancelable anytime. And what do you get for membership? Well, you get to support me. It really helps. But also, we have a special members live every Thursday at 8 o'clock Spanish time. And even if you can't make the live, you can always catch up on it and watch the video after. And also you have special emojis in your chat if you're a member. And just generally, you're really appreciated. So, with no more ado, let's have a look at was Riley Strain roofied? Now, this case, we followed it, didn't we, right from the beginning when Riley, a beautiful guy, young lad, just finishing his degree, just about to start work for like a finance company, out with these frat brothers for a night out in Tennessee, and it ended in tragedy for Riley. So a fantastic day and evening, you know, where they're all partying, doing the things that young people do. And Riley was asked to leave a bar in the end because he was so intoxicated, or, you know, we don't know what substances or alcohol he had been taking. Not really. We still don't know. We're waiting for toxicology reports. But anyway, it came out. He could clearly be seen on CCTV stumbling around. He had a few brief interactions, even one with a policeman. And then he just disappeared completely. And a couple of weeks later, Riley's body was found in the river that runs along the side of where all the bars were and everything, where he was drinking with his friends. And he was found, unfortunately, drowned. Now, he was found without his jeans and without his cowboy boots, but he was still wearing his Apple Watch. His wallet had disappeared, which was probably in his jeans. But some TikTokers had found his debit card by on the banks of the river. So what happened to Riley is still not clear. Was he pushed into the river? Did he fall into the river? How did his jeans come off? Because his parents said he would probably be wearing a belt. Would definitely be wearing a belt. Riley was a very tall, slender guy, and you could see that he would probably need a belt to keep his jeans up. Now, you know, it could well be that Riley went to relieve himself, undid the belt. This is what I'm thinking may have happened. He may not have been attacked, but he may have been pushed into the river. Because the other thing is that the autopsy report said that he did not have much, if any, water in his lungs. So it would have had to have been a case of dry drowning, which can happen when someone's intoxicated. So you can imagine the parents want answers. Why did he not have his? I mean, it could be that he'd undone his belt to go and relieve himself. And that's why the jeans came off easily in the water. Could be that something untoward happened. But you can imagine his parents, as any parents would, want answers. They want to know. They're not saying necessarily that anything untoward did happen to Riley. What they're saying is they don't feel that they have all the answers yet. So, and I agree. I've thought right from the beginning that maybe Riley had been slipped something in his drink, because he just seems so, for a big guy. I know he's not, he's a very slim guy, but he's a tall guy, 6'6", I think, or 6'7". So, why had the alcohol affected him so much? Maybe he hadn't eaten, it's possible, but he just seemed so, in the CCTV, Riley's staggering all over the place. He falls several times. But so if he fell like that near the river, you could see that he could fall in and tumble down the bank. Anyway, so I'm making this video because it's now come out. His parents, we're still waiting for toxicology reports on Riley. They haven't come through yet. But his parents have sat down with News Nation and released further information about that night. That's why we're here talking about Riley. And let's have a look. Let's have a look. So this is Banfield, and the other guy went and actually went to talk to them. So let's have a look.
Knew before, including, and this was something that was so distressing to me, the 911 call suggesting that the operator said, "Don't worry about it. He's probably just off with some bridesmaids somewhere, and he'll turn up." I'm paraphrasing, but it was uncomfortable to hear a cavalier attitude to someone calling for help from the authorities. Tell me a little bit more about what you've been learning about the route that Riley took that night before he ended up on the riverbank.
Yeah, and the rain has stopped, actually. Again, the weather has just been crazy in this part of the country. But yeah, Riley Strain, of course, the young college student who went missing in Nashville, was there partying with his frat brothers beginning of March. Tragic story. Before I came here to Kansas and Oklahoma, I was in Missouri meeting with his parents, and they revealed all sorts of new information that we had never heard before. They had been focused on grieving, and before that, finding.
Yeah, they've now got his card activity. So they've got the bank details now. And you'll hear later. Sorry. You'll hear later about they know the actual bars that he went to now and how long he was in them for. So they'll be looking at that CCTV. The police will be.
Finding Riley, and now they're opening up about all of these other details about what they've learned happened that night. They were able to get Riley's bank records now, and we now have a look, and we have a map at exactly which bars he went to. We knew Luke Bryan's bar, but we now know all the bars, and we know the order that he attended those bars. It was Miranda Lambert's bar first, Garth Brooks' bar second, Kid Rock's bar third, and then he ended up at Luke Bryan's bar fourth. And again, they've figured this out by looking at his bank records, and they've.
Yeah, so good. So they now know his route that night, where he went, how long he was in there. They'll be able to look at the CCTV from these bars. Maybe something will turn up. Maybe somebody did slip him something in his drink. I personally would be very surprised if they didn't. So this is like, seems like they're like famous. They're, Miranda Lambert's bar, Kid Rock's bar, Garth Brooks bar, and Luke Bryan's bar. They're like these famous bars, owned by famous people. So they're the cool bars, aren't they, to hang out in. So they'll have loads of CCTV, I imagine.
Revealed something else that they've never talked about before, Ashley. It's shocking. It is a conversation, a text message conversation that Riley had with his mother at one of those bars. They're not sure which one he was at, not Luke Bryan's bar, but one of the ones before. I want you to listen to what they said.
He had sent me a text and said that he had ordered he was drinking a rum and coke and it didn't taste good. And I said, well, you probably shouldn't drink it then. He goes, well, it tastes like barbecue. And I go, well, that sounds awful. And he said, well, it sounds good, but it's not.
When a rum and coke normally tastes the same, I mean, that's not something that you really normally tastes any different.
Right.
It has a very consistent taste.
Yes. And that's why I'm like, you probably shouldn't drink that then.
Do you think that could have something to do with what happened?
Yeah, maybe there was something in it that shouldn't have been.
I mean, even if there wasn't foul play at the river, but if something happened in the bar, that's the kind of thing that could hurt someone else.
Exactly.
And you hear about that happening to women, but it likely happens to men too, I'm sure.
From the stories that we've been told from Uber drivers and just different individuals.
Spiking people's drinks, it's a terrible thing. It's so common these days. And yeah, it does happen to men and women. And the thing is, a lot of time people do it, the people that do it, the fools that do it, sometimes with women, they're doing it to try and, maybe put them in a position where they can take advantage of them. I'm sure that happens to men as well in some cases. But the other thing that happens, I think probably more with men than women, or boys than girls, other boys, even their friends, think it's funny. They think it's funny to do it because young people of that age, 21, 22, they don't see consequences. So personally, for me, I think it's entirely possible. I'm not saying it's what happened, but it's just as possible as anything else that his own friends spiked his drink. I'm sure that frat boys do all sorts of stupid things. That's just what they do. I mean, nobody can tell me they don't. That frat boys never do silly things, they do. And that's a worry for me that maybe even his friends have done it. But if it wasn't his friends, anybody could do it. People are out there thinking it's funny to roofie somebody, to spike somebody's drink. It happens all the time. Awful, actually. I mean, in my day, it didn't ever happen. So luckily for me, just awful. So although if then what resulted was an accident of Riley falling into the river, that's really what is it, involuntary manslaughter or some sort. There'll be a crime that somebody, if it turns out, and it will come up maybe on these CCTV once they start examining them, maybe they will see somebody put something in Riley's drink. So the thing is, for these parents, it won't bring Riley back. So this is his mum in the green, and they're all in green, yeah, because Riley's favourite colour was green. That's her second husband, and sat next to her with the dark shirt on, that's Riley's dad and his new wife, if you like, or Riley's stepmom. And they all seem to, it's nice that they at least all seem to be working together to find out what happened to Riley. So what this family want is answers. They know it's not going to bring Riley back. Riley is gone, unfortunately. But they just want to know. They say later, you'll hear them say, things don't add up. Once, you put one and one together, should make two, but it's not. But once they can make things add up, then they'll, stop. But they won't stop until things start to make sense. They want to know what happened. And believe me, if somebody's put something in Riley's drink, they'll want them to be held accountable for that.
That reached out to us that either happened to a family member or happened to them in Nashville. there's something there.
There's something going on in that town.
It just feels
not
like
good.
it just feels like you come up to a stopping point. Every time we get somewhere, it just feels like there's something holding everybody back from fully giving us what we need. And there's just something there. There is something there. It's just,
be it money or bad publicity.
right. We don't know, but we truly want to try to help, this situation and help others.
Nobody needs to go through what we've had to go through, the way that we've had to go through it. I mean, they're still telling us it's an accident. Fine. Show me the proof that you have that it's an accident. I'll accept it.
So now Ashley questions of whether Riley was roofied based on that conversation that he had with his mom, and obviously the way that he was acting in some of the surveillance video that didn't make sense. We've learned there's a state investigation now on top of the local investigation, which apparently has ended and isn't continuing. The state now looking at cameras from the bars, according to the family, trying to figure out, what he drank. Did someone slip something in his drinks? All of that now being looked at, Ashley.
Well, I sure hope that the state investigators, if they find that someone slipped something into his drink and he died as a result of it, I hope they charge that person with felony murder, because drugging someone is a felony. And when someone dies as a result of your felony, you get charged with resulting murder. That is so distressing to hear that. Brian, excellent digging. And I know that there's a lot more. By the way, please go get shelter. Thank you for, doing this in such bad weather down there, and all the digging and all the double duty today, Brian. Thank you so much. Excellent job.
Thanks, Ash.
And I've got a whole lot more of Brian's exclusive interview with Riley Strain's parents coming up after the break, because while they were on the ground in Nashville and they were personally searching everywhere they could, what were Riley's frat brothers doing? Riley's mom and dad said they could not believe how these young men behaved. And you may not believe it either. Hear it
Oh, I believe it, but straight away you think, because they've been very quiet, haven't they? They lawyered up apparently. Well, what did they lawyer up for if they've got nothing to worry about? I do think there is something suspicious about the frat brothers. Wait till you hear this.
all next.
Oh, right. Riley just looked like such a
Riley
lovely
Strain's
guy.
mother says there is a hole in her heart, and it is not just the loss of her son. It is the lack of answers from people who should know by now. How Riley went from alive and texting outside a Nashville bar to dead in the Cumberland River. Nashville police are still insisting it was a tragic accident and nothing more. But the family is not buying that. As for Riley's brothers at his fraternity at the University of Missouri, you may be shocked when you hear how they reacted to Riley's real family when that family needed support the most. Not only that, we got more now of an interview you'll see now only on News Nation about that drink, about the disappearance, and about what happened afterwards. Here's Riley Strain's mom and dad and step-parents with our Brian Enton.
They've got a mountain of evidence that they're working on filtering through, and he has been in contact several times throughout this whole investigation.
Do you think that could lead to some answers in terms of maybe if there was something in the drink? I would think there's got to be all sorts of cameras.
So. We heard there was 150 cameras in Luke Bryan's bar, I believe it was. We hope that'll lead to something.
150 cameras in a bar. My God, 150. Must be massive bar. Well, there'll be maybe something will turn up. So Luke Bryan's bar was the last bar that Riley went to. And that is the bar where supposedly he had 1 beer and 2 waters. And then he became so, off the wall, if you like, that they asked him to leave. That's where it started. And one of his frat brothers walked him to the door, but he didn't go with him. He went back into the bar. And Riley was alone then, trying to find his way back to the hotel. But that was this last bar that he went in.
So, it's interesting because, he wasn't in Luke Bryant's as long as we thought. You know, according to what the detectives told us timeline this week, you know, he'd left Garce and went to Kid Rock's and then spent an hour in Kid Rock's, then showed up at Luke Bryant's at 9:15, I believe is what the detective told us. He was in Luke Bryant's from 9:15 to 9:30.
If only you could travel back in time and you just, you know, go back there, rewind, get Riley out of there or get him home, get him a taxi. It's just so heartbreaking.
21 minutes. He had one beer, 2 waters. You know, last time I checked, every time you go into these bars, you have to show ID, probably have to pay a.
That's quite a lot to drink in 21 minutes, isn't it? I don't mean alcohol-wise, I mean just volume-wise. To drink 2 waters and a beer in 21 minutes suggests to me he was thirsty. You know, was he thirsty because of something that had been put in his drink in one of the other bars?
Cover, and so if he didn't meet the protocol to be in there after being in there 21 minutes, I can't imagine a lot changed in that 21 minutes from when he was paying to get in.
Well, I'm just thinking about, you know, you've got celebrity bars involved. You've got Nashville, which is a huge tourist destination. You've got a big fraternity with chapters all over the country. A lot of people who probably just would prefer that you guys stop doing these interviews.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We're not going to stop until we get satisfied with some sort of answer somewhere,
it's
because where we're at right now still doesn't make sense.
still a mission. You know, the objective is still the same, to find out what really happened, because everything we're seeing, it doesn't add up. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. You know, if it was, we wouldn't be sitting here.
The fraternity brothers had not gone to the police when they called you.
Not that I am aware of.
Were you surprised?
Yes. Because why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they have called the police when they got back at 3:15 in the morning and didn't see him then? Why wouldn't they have called the police?
Yeah, now that's a bit, isn't it? But I think young people, maybe they would have thought that he had, you know, maybe gone off with a girl or something. I don't know. I don't know. I think young people, and don't forget they'd all been drinking as well, probably, you know, maybe that's why they didn't ring the police yet. I think, is she saying that even by the time the next day came, they hadn't? Let's have a listen.
I don't know.
So 7 or 8 hours had gone by from the time they got back to the hotel to when they called you. Do you have any idea why they didn't call the police until then?
I don't know.
We called them on the way down, and it was probably.
So 7 or 8 hours had gone by since Riley had gone missing. Yeah, they weren't in a rush to call the police, were they? But don't forget, they are young, silly people, and they had all been drinking. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether to put any emphasis on that or not.
Probably close to 12 o'clock, and they were just going to the sheriff's detention center, to the sheriff's office to report him missing. That was probably 12:15, 12:30, somewhere in there.
So 2 more hours had gone by from the initial call.
Yeah.
They still hadn't gone
Yeah.
to the police.
Yeah. 14 hours after his last ping over his phone was.
Do you think they were just scared, or do you have any idea why?
It's $1 million question.
So what happened when you got to Nashville?
So when we got there, all the boys were out. Well, not all the boys, but several of the boys were up front with a police officer. And we had to finish filling out the report. So we completed that, and the boys stayed out for a while. And then they all of a sudden disappeared, all of the boys. And they ended up back out a little while later in their dress clothes to go out to their formal that night.
Yeah, now you can see this is upsetting her because, and I'm not surprised because Riley should have been going. So the thing is, not only those boys, it took all that time to, boys and girls, I should say, took all that time to report Riley missing or to let them know. And then they went off, got ready, got into their dress clothes and went off to their formal party. You know, nothing, they didn't go and, you know, searching for Riley or this sort of, you could see that upset her as she was saying it, and it must upset her for two reasons. One, because Riley should have been in his dress clothes going to that party as well. And two, because it was as if it didn't matter that Riley was missing, they were going to go to the party anyway. And they weren't out helping to search for Riley or anything. Very, that must have hurt big time.
They went to the formal?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, these are his fraternity brothers?
Fraternity brothers, roommates,
roommate.
friends from high school.
We spent the next 4.5 hours searching every emergency room to see if he was in the hospital. We come back and they're coming back, some of them from the party, and they're waving at us as we're sitting in the truck. How's that make you feel?
I would have thought they would have all banded together like a search group that night.
Yeah, 150, 160 of them.
Well, it seems like fraternity brother doesn't really mean brother, does it? They don't give a toss. So there was loads of him, hundreds of him. So they could have gone out and searched, maybe found that card that the TikToker found. So it took a TikToker, not even the police, took a TikToker, you know, social media ghoul that everybody talks about, to find his debit card.
On the ground, you know, there from all different chapters. And, you know, they told us that they were there. All of them were there if we needed them. We didn't know what we needed at that point in time, but you would have thought that, you know, they would have at least been out searching, trying to do something. Wasn't.
Or something.
So the night after he went missing, you were out searching and the fraternity brothers were partying. What were you thinking?
We weren't very happy with them, to say the least. It's appalling.
You all received a letter from someone else who was staying at the same hotel who described a little bit of what they heard that night that Riley went missing. I just want to read part of it. At first, I thought it was a bunch of drunk college kids being jealous of girlfriend-boyfriend stuff, but it was too loud and went on too long. They were in halls. I could hear them between the walls. The doors for the hotel rooms are very heavy, so they slam when you let them shut. I woke up at 3:15 a.m. to numerous doors slamming, kids in the hall, both boys and girls, having very loud discussions, going back and forth from rooms multiple times. It was like new kids kept showing up on the floor during the entire period. These kids were freaking out about something. Were you ever able to?
So they were freaking out about something. I wonder what they were freaking out about.
To find out what was going on in the hotel that night?
From one of the friends that I talked to this week, apparently he had hurt his hand that night. Didn't really specify what he had done, but apparently it had to do with a hurt hand that night and people being emotional about it. Apparently it didn't have anything to do with Riley.
Do you think there's information that his frat brothers have that they're not sharing?
I feel like yes, maybe.
So she's probably got to be careful what she says because you can't go slinging accusations around. But she feels, you know, maybe you would feel that being the mum. She feels that there's something they're not sharing, but they're lawyered up. Why would they lawyer up? That just seems strange to me.
No, I mean, I haven't sat down and talked to any of them to say, tell me your whole entire story. Would I like that? Yeah, yes, it would be nice.
Now that you've found Riley, do you feel like you have a different purpose in terms? I mean, do you want to know everything that happened? Do you Is there like a hole? How would you describe it?
Of course, there's a hole in my heart. There always will be.
Oh, bless.
And we may never know what happened that night. And that makes it even worse for me. But yeah, I would like to know everything that happened that day.
I don't understand why they haven't reached out to us wanting to provide information of that night.
Exactly. You shouldn't have to go chasing information from these frat boys and girls. You know, they should be volunteering information. If that was you, you know, or if that was me, I would be like desperate to help these parents, you know, give them whatever answers they needed. I know they're young people. They don't think the same, you know, it's all about them, isn't it? And about, it would have been about their party that night was, but some of them, you know, some of them wouldn't have known Riley that well. But his roommates, his friends from school, you know, these are people that were close to him. They weren't just, you know, in his fraternity. People that were, well, you know, his mates. That's what I don't understand. They weren't very good friends, were they? They weren't very good friends in the first place to let him try and make it home on his own. And of course, there are reports that he was talking to some of them, weren't they, on his phone, they were trying to give him instructions. You know, obviously, we've all done it when we were young and we've gone out, and I've seen people be stupid, you know, towards their friends and laughing because they're drunk, and, you know, they think it hilarious to send him the wrong way, even, maybe, you know, just because that's how stupid young people can be sometimes when they've had a drink and that.
You know, maybe I'm crazy, but why should we have to reach out to them and beg them for information on a missing brother?
Did his brothers come to the funeral?
Mm-hmm. They did. They were shuttled down on a bus, basically chaperoned through. They were loaded back up on a bus and back to school they went again.
Do you think the fraternity is trying to protect the fraternity? I mean, in terms of like a lawsuit or reputation, or I mean, what do you think is happening behind the scenes?
I think it's a reputation blow.
I do. Yep. There were a couple of things that happened over this last week. They had a memorial service for him in Columbia, and we were notified 3 hours before. Well, we know it takes 3 hours to get to Columbia. I mean, I thought this was a brotherhood, you know.
Gosh.
Riley Strain's parents with our own Brian Enton.
So they had a memorial service for him. They didn't invite the parents, didn't tell them till 3 hours before. What I always like about Banfield is her face just always tells the story. You know, she never hides what she thinks on her face.
Thank you for watching.
Okay.
Go to news.
So, more to come on that story. I hope Riley's family get the answers that they want. You know, as I say, as we know, nothing will bring Riley back, but they do deserve to know what happened that night. So when I obviously will let you know as soon as I hear anything, if the toxicology reports come up with anything, if as they trawl through all these CCTV cameras of these bars, now that they know exactly where he was that night, you know, they know exactly where he went, how long he was in these places. They'll be able to check all the CCTV and see, did something untoward happen? It does seem strange that as Riley went into that bar, he obviously was okay as he went in because he got in, otherwise he wouldn't have let him in. And then within 21 minutes, in which time he had 2 waters and a beer, which still seems to me quite a volume of liquid to, you know, I'm not talking about, you know, to drink it's quite hard to drink 2 waters and a beer in 21 minutes, unless you were thirsty. And that just makes me wonder. I mean, I'd be interested to know this rum and coke. She didn't know when she said that he said that his rum and coke tasted like barbecue. She didn't know which bar he was at then. They'll be able to perhaps trace it now that they've got the details of when he was at what time. They can probably match up the times and try and work out which bar it was that he was in, where he said his rum and coke tasted like barbecue. Well, it must have been, it wasn't in that last bar because he had a beer and 2 waters in that bar. So it just makes you wonder if the rum and coke was spiked, and then he's got to the next bar, and then while he's in the next bar, he's started to feel strange. So yeah, 21 minutes after going into that bar, he was being asked to leave because of his, he was all over the place, and we saw that he was all over the place on the CCTV. Bless him. It's very distressing to watch that CCTV, even for me, and I'm not his mum, just seeing him sort of falling over and tripping over, and just it's very, very haunting and eerie. Bless him. There he was. Anyway, and then not long afterwards, he was no more. Bless him. So I'll let you know any developments. I hope, as I say, that they get to know what happened, what really happened to Riley Strain. Okay, so remember to live and love carefully and wisely. Don't walk near rivers when you're drunk. Honestly, rivers, in the end, they start to give you the creeps, don't they? You never realised how dangerous it could be to walk by a river, or, and then, something that I've said, if you are a young person or you've got young people in your family, like around about that age, just try and instill in them not to, go home alone, not to, or let somebody go home alone. So always stay together, because that after that night, what should have been a happy day for Riley, he was probably having a great time earlier on in the evening. Certainly hope he was. I hope his last day at least was a fun one, but it shouldn't have ended in tragedy. He should have been there the next day with the others, going to the formal party, dressing up. He should have, and then he would start his internship, and he had his whole life in front of him. Anyway, I'll see you very soon in the next video. And until then, take care, and may your God go with you. Bye.